Welcome back. Today we're tackling a subject that, well, usually puts people to sleep, but it's rapidly shifted into a massive, highly regulated discipline of corporate governance. We're looking at Jay Singh's definitive 2026 guide, Corporate Sustainability Frameworks, a practical guide. Our goal for this explainer is to bring some actual order to the chaos of the global ESG reporting landscape, giving you a clear, structured path to mastering these frameworks without, completely losing your mind. Okay, let's dive into this. That quote right there perfectly captures our mission today. If you're dealing with reporting fatigue, trust me, you're definitely not alone. But the purpose of these frameworks isn't just to fill out compliance checkboxes or satisfy auditors, it's to fundamentally transform how your business creates long-term value for people, the planet, and future generations. We're going to shift our mindset today from simply reporting to actually transforming.
So, here's our roadmap for today. First, the ESG alphabet soup. Second, understanding double materiality. Third, decoding the major frameworks. Fourth, building one data foundation. And finally, the future of sustainability.
Part 1. The ESG Alphabet Soup. Overcoming Reporting Fatigue in 2026.
Look, if you're a sustainability pro, a finance leader, or a supply chain manager in 2026, you're likely overwhelmed by an absolute avalanche of acronyms. We've got the EU CSRD, we have the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, or CBAM, there's the ISSB, the SEC, the BSR in India, and the newly published UK SRS. Honestly, it's like a bowl of alphabet soup just exploded on a bureaucrat's desk. So, the crucial point is this. Despite this overwhelming number of frameworks, global regulations are actually converging toward a unified baseline. The underlying reality of your company's operations hasn't changed at all. A ton of carbon emitted is a ton of carbon emitted, regardless of which framework you use to report it. The secret to avoiding that massive reporting fatigue is realizing you absolutely do not need a separate data collection project for every single acronym.
Moving on to Part 2. Understanding double materiality. The core mindset shift.
To truly understand how all these frameworks are converging, we've got to grasp the central concept driving modern ESG reporting. It's a massive paradigm shift that directly links environmental impact to financial strategy. It's called double materiality, and it is literally the linchpin of modern compliance. It basically asks you to look through two lenses at the exact same time. First, you have impact materiality. How does your company impact the world? Like, how much water are you drawing from a local stressed watershed? And second, financial materiality. How does sustainability issues impact your company's bottom line? For instance, how does a drought in that exact same watershed threaten your manufacturing capabilities and your cash flow?
And this brilliantly illustrates Jay Singh's core thesis. On one side, we have the Global Reporting Initiative, or GRI. It focuses squarely on your impact on the economy, the environment, and people. On the other side, we have the IFRS Sustainability Disclosure Standards, S1 and S2, which focus purely on financial materiality for investors. Now, these two frameworks are not competitors. No way. They are highly complementary lenses looking at the exact same set of underlying data. If you measure your water usage accurately once, you can seamlessly report it through both lenses.
Section 3. Decoding the major frameworks. The Big Five lenses.
Now, what's really interesting about all of this is how we can take thousands of pages of dense legal regulation and just distill them down into 5 core questions. We've just covered GRI and IFRS. Then there's CDP, which asks for deep, comparable environmental data to score your leadership on climate, water, and forests. Next, we have EcoVadis, a vital framework looking at your supply chain ESG performance and procurement risk. And finally, the recently updated ISO 14001-2026. This isn't just some plaque you hang on the wall for certification. It asks if you have the foundational, operational management system to actually generate reliable data in the first place. Which brings us to the most important strategic insight of the entire guide. Why build 3 different systems when you only need one? The organizations that suffer the least reporting fatigue do not run a separate data collection exercise for GRI, and then another one for CDP, and then another for EcoVadis. Instead, they build a single, high-quality governed data foundation, often anchored right in their ISO 14001 management system, and they just let that single foundation feed every single framework.
Part 4. Building one data foundation. The implementation blueprint.
So how do we actually pull this off in the real world? Well, here's the first half of a proven 8-step roadmap. Step 1, secure leadership and board commitment, because sustainability just can't sit in a silo. Step 2, run a double materiality assessment to figure out what actually matters. Step 3, and this is absolutely critical, build your data governance. You need to establish consistent collection, validation, and audit trails before you add any frameworks. Look, if you've ever witnessed the sheer panic of a frantic manual spreadsheet reconstruction at 2 a.m. the week before an audit deadline, you know exactly why this step is here. Step 4. Select and phase the frameworks that match your material topics.
Let's move to and see how this builds into the final 4 steps. Step 5 is building internal capacity and training your cross-functional teams. Step 6 is setting smart, ideally science-based, targets. Step 7 is reporting with assurance, and pay super close attention to this one. Assurance readiness must be designed from cycle 1. You absolutely cannot retrofit an audit trail right before a submission. Finally, step 8 is reviewing annually to drive continuous improvement.
When you're building this data foundation, nothing is more foundational than carbon accounting, specifically using the GHG protocol. It breaks emissions down into 3 scopes. Scope 1 covers direct emissions from owned sources, like your company vehicles or your boilers. Scope 2 covers indirect emissions from the generation of purchased electricity. And Scope 3? Well, Scope 3 is everything else in your value chain, both upstream from your suppliers and downstream from product use.
To put that into perspective, Scope 3 often makes up a staggering 70 to 90% of a company's total carbon footprint. It's incredibly hard to measure, but it's increasingly the primary focus of regulation, investor scrutiny, and target-setting frameworks like the Science-Based Targets Initiative. You just can't ignore it anymore.
I know, managing Scope 3 can feel completely daunting, but the guide provides some highly actionable, encouraging advice. Start simple, Use spend-based estimation to figure out where your biggest hotspots actually are. As you mature, you transition to supplier-specific data. Crucially, when you're looking at your supply chain, segment your suppliers by both spend and risk. A low-spend supplier located in a high-risk geography can carry massive compliance exposure for you. Finally, leverage specialized tools like EcoVadis's Carbon Action Manager to pull primary data directly from those suppliers.
Finally, Section 5, the future of sustainability, AI governance and transformation. Let's look ahead to the trends that'll dominate the next decade. We're moving toward things like digital product passports in the EU, which will mandate product-level sustainability data by 2030. But the most immediate shift is the massive influx of AI-enabled reporting tools. Using large language models to draft sustainability narratives can literally save thousands of hours, but it carries huge risks, like hallucinations or just generic greenwashing. Good AI governance requires strict guardrails. You must have a named owner for AI tools. You have to clearly disclose where AI assisted you. Every single number must trace back to a verifiable source. And most importantly, you have to recognize that AI cannot understand materiality. AI is a powerful assistant, for sure, but it is never a replacement for professional human judgment.
Looking ahead to 2035, the entire landscape will have shifted. We're moving away from annual, retrospective PDF reports and moving toward continuous, near real-time monitoring. Data will be machine-readable with digital tags from the exact moment of capture. Manual spreadsheets are rapidly becoming a structural, unacceptable risk. Building your single, governed data foundation right now is the only way to survive this transition without completely burning out your team.
We've covered a ton of ground today, from deciphering the alphabet soup and double materiality, all the way to mapping out a unified data foundation in AI governance. But I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Look at your current ESG efforts. Are you just exhaustingly reporting performance to keep regulators happy? Or are you using this data foundation to actually transform your organization, uncover operational efficiencies, and secure your resilience for the future? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.